Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. It's been quite a busy weekend. Just yesterday we dropped our Scorn review. I'll have that link down below if you want to check it out. Today we're doing our Warhammer 40K Darktide preview, which I had the honor of playing early. And later on into next week we have more reviews and previews dropping, so it's a very busy time for the channel. If you're into any of that stuff, consider subscribing. We're very close to 500K. Ladies and gentlemen, my natural, uncontrollable disposition on life is a glass half full mentality. I wish sometimes I could control it and be pessimistic like the rest of the universe, but quite frankly, I just can't help it. That's just how I approach things. So when I looked at Warhammer 40K Darktide, it replicates a lot of the same thoughts I had for Scorn. Wow, I really like the world here. Wow, the mechanics here are speaking to me, but these bugs and glitches are just getting in the way. And it's a really bad sign when in 2 videos in a row I'm talking bugs and glitches. The reason for that is I love Bethesda Game Studios games. That's all I have to say. So that's a pretty big problem for these companies if you're starting to whittle away my tolerance on things. Ultimately, Warhammer 40K Darktide kicks ass. I'm into a lot of things that this game is doing, which I will explain in this video. But after a delay back in July saying that they're going to release the PC version November 30th and the Xbox Series version shortly thereafter, I have to say, hold up. Give this game a couple more months in the oven. It needs that time. It deserves that time because this game looks like a real blast.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
A lot of you write in and go, Matty, the stash, it's so fresh. Matty, the goatee, it's so nice. Okay, maybe you don't, but honestly, I want to talk to you about Harry's, and that's my segue into doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, shaving, it's a pain in the wazoo. Sometimes you just don't want to do it, but hygiene, it's important. So here I am to tell you about Harry's because they are making it as easy as humanly possible. You got $5 lying around, you have a choice right now. McDonald's Happy Meal or a Harry's starter kit. I'd go with the latter personally. Why is that? You can see right here the value offering they are providing. A bottle of foam shaving gel, no problem whatsoever. Right over your face, shave it down with what you may be asking, a razor with a color of your choice. I went with sage because green is my color. It's not your color, it's my color. I'm the one with the Christmas suit in the middle of the summer, by the way, so remember that. But this is what they provide with you alongside a razor guard. All of this arrives at your doorstep for $5, so it's convenient, it's high quality, it makes life a lot easier. So are you interested in getting started? Redeem your starter set right now by using the link in the description down below. Only costs you $5 and you support your boy. So go ahead and check it out, and a big thanks to Harry's for sponsoring today's video. And now, without any further delay, let's get into Warhammer 40K Darktide, which I spent a couple of hours with over on Steam. It's coming, again, exclusively to Xbox Series consoles, and it's a day 1 Game Pass game, so pay close attention to this one. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I really liked about this game was the character creator. I loved being able to select your backstory. I picked, in particular, a water planet because I was thinking of Manon, and you all know Manon's my favorite Star Wars world, so I thought, hey, you know, the water world's speaking to me, why not? But you can customize your home world, your backstory, all this cool stuff. Does it serve to give you true choice and consequence? No, but it gives you a little bit more agency over who you are in the co-op lobby, and it changes your little label next to your name in the bottom left corner, so everyone has a different little name attached to them based off the story that they have created. I like that type of stuff because it highlights one thing that many people don't talk about, and it's that the Warhammer universe has incredibly rich lore. I couldn't tell you a thing about it because it's so vast and wide, and I've only played a small select few of the games from that world, but what I have seen has been impressive. It's expansive, it's interesting, and this game is no different. There is so much here to take in. It's visually stunning, its design is fantastic. There's a lot to love about the Warhammer world, and I have no doubt that here a lot of people will get hooked into it. You see, this is a spiritual successor to the Vermintide games. For those who never played Vermintide, think of medieval Left 4 Dead, but you're killing a bunch of rats. And that game and its sequel were awesome. Here in Warhammer 40K Darktide, you're getting a bit of the same, but the actual skill set of each character is awesome. It's different, it's visceral, it's fun. I think the levels are far more expansive. It feels like a true upgrade on everything that Vermintide had set up. However, again, those bugs and glitches were really undermining an otherwise positive experience. So I do want to shift my focus to that before getting into some of the systems and mechanics and things I did like about the game. So first and foremost, what I did not like was the constant crashes. especially when the loading screen was looping and I didn't know the game was crashing until I tabbed out, shut down my application. They went, "We're sorry for the inconvenience. What is the bug report, sir?" And I went, I guess it crashed. Sorry, I didn't realize this as I sat in the loading screen for 3 minutes. That was hard to distinguish because when I fired this game up on my multiple rigs, the loading times were extremely long each time, whether I was on SSD, general hard drive, it did not matter. It was taking a while for this game to load. It ran pretty well otherwise, especially on my more beefy rigs. This is a intense, demanding game though. Keep that in mind. This has also been a consistent thing amidst all of the different reviews and previews I am posting now or will be posting. Make sure your rig is up to snuff. For example, my at-home rig could only run this on 1080p on low settings. That's with a 980 Ti i7 quad core. So it was a decent rig at one time, but it's on its last legs at this point, and this game really underscores all of that. However, that all aside, the mission objectives were breaking constantly, enemies were spawning directly in front of us, the game was crashing, friends were lagging out of matches. There was apparently, and I never got a chance to see this in all of my time testing it, but when you invite friends to your party, you're supposed to see them in the general lobby. That never happened, but my other friends could see one another, so I never got to enjoy that. There's a lot of hiccups all throughout the mission, and even some of the enemy design was frustrating and felt generally unfair. So there are some actual balancing things to iron out. For example, when I got to the end of one of the missions and I fought the final boss for that mission, the way they attack you is much like a general enemy you'll encounter, which staggers you endlessly, and you can't really fight back until another friend hits them. But since that enemy does so much damage, it's pretty frustrating. It does try to lean a bit more in the direction of teamwork compared to what I'd say Vermintide did, where Vermintide, you needed to work as a team, but as long as you were all shooting and using abilities, you should have been fine. But in this game, it's like, oh, you're tied down. Someone needs to come out and help you big time, or otherwise you're gonna die. Like, there's a big, beefy, tanky party member you can have who can barrel over enemies. Meanwhile, I played as this mage who could literally squish people's heads together and kill them in one shot. It was so satisfying. So I was a bit of a glass cannon. I needed that protection, and I love that dynamic, but it felt like the enemy design didn't respect that enough. It felt like they would target me, they would completely take me down, and that's fine. I'm the weak link. However, what was frustrating is that there was no escape once they did get me. And I'm not talking about like the leapers in Left 4 Dead where they just tie you down. They do have their version of that in this game. I'm talking just a general shot would stagger my screen, cause it to shake, and it felt way chaotic beyond what I think the game was actually going for. It's hard to track all of that action already amidst 20 different enemy archetypes and some of them locking you down in unfair ways. So you get what I'm saying now? There are bugs, glitches, crashes aplenty, and then you have some balance issues. This game is great, but it needs more time. So I said it's great. What is great about it? Beyond the character creator, which I thought was awesome, I think the general hub reminds me a lot of a game on PS Vita that maybe some of you have played. It's still exclusive to the platform. That's Freedom Wars, and I don't know how it's still stuck on Vita, by the way. I'd love to see that come out to consoles. But Freedom Wars is a game where you play as a prisoner and you gradually whittle away your prison sentence by completing missions. This game reminded me a lot of that. You start off as a prisoner and you're going out on behest of this prison and you are completing missions for them. Now, it's much like, say, Marvel Avengers as a pretty poor example, where you have your mission table, and once you go to the mission table, you can select all different ones that are active. There are various mission types, assassinations, reaching a goal of some kind, so on and so forth, that you can complete. They're all across various different maps, and each map has a different tier in the terms of difficulty, 1 through 4. And as you progress in the game and you get better gear, you'll be able to take on those tougher missions. So there is a sense of progression there. As you complete missions, pass or fail, you will get experience, you will get coins, and you can eventually go to an armory where you can spend that coin on new weapons that'll make you more powerful and make the missions in turn easier. So there is a bit of a loot loop here that will keep you somewhat engaged, but it's not the primary focus. It's not like you're actually going to be running around killing these enemies and picking up 1,000,001 weapons. But that does make it kind of awkward when I find a chest and the chest is completely empty, barren of anything. It's just, why is this here? Oh, there's no ammo, there's no healing supplies, there's no scrap, there's no weapons, no armor, nothing. It's just empty chests. There's tons of empty chests in this game, and I don't know why. But I was able to look past that because the classes are different enough where I felt like everyone was doing their own thing. We had a general soldier who was good with weapons. Again, I mentioned we had the tank who could barrel people over. You had me as the mage doing a lot of damage from a completely far distance. And I feel like everyone was able to have an impact on the match, especially because you have multiple abilities. So not only can I squeeze people's heads down, but also I can do this force push, this almost Fus Roda, and just wipe out a ton of enemies before me. That was really cool to see. I dug that a lot, where it felt as if we were getting swarmed. I was the difference maker, even though I wasn't a frontline player. So I love the risk reward here. I love the hordes when they show up out of nowhere. And the missions are dynamic in that sense. When we ran through the same mission twice, there was a boss at the end of a giant horde segment where it was just, we were getting destroyed, and then all of a sudden this thing comes out of nowhere. It's in this big stair set area, and we're thinking, okay, this is the set area for a boss. This makes sense. We actually died. We had to rerun this mission, and we find this boss again somewhere near this very narrow alleyway, and this time he bodied us. We died much later in the mission the last time, but this time we died early because he comes in, he bodies us, and wipes us off the edge of the map, and we fall to our death, and that was it. That can be a little frustrating because you get so far and there's this unpredictable element that just rocks your world. It is much like Left 4 Dead, where if you die and your teammates live, eventually you can be rescued because technically you are captured by these enemies and they will take you somewhere, almost like you find the closet in Left 4 Dead 2. In this game, you'll be handcuffed somewhere and they'll find you and they'll rescue you. I do like that rezzing your friends is relatively quick. It's not this thing that's a long-term process, so you can get them back in the fight. That type of stuff to me counts because, especially in a game as unpredictable as this, I do think it's important we have answers to the unpredictable nature of the game. But yeah, it was visceral, it was fun. The sword combat, in my case, felt pretty good. It was very similar to what you've seen in Vermintide. You hold up your block, you can push enemies away if you so desire, you can slash them up, you can do a heavy attack, a light attack combo, depending on who you're fighting. And there are various enemy archetypes, some that are familiar from the Left 4 Dead style games you've seen before, such as like the leapers that will tie you down, except here they're called trappers, and they shoot like an electromagnetic net that surrounds you and just encases you. But you'll also find big tanky enemies that'll barrel towards you, like I talked about. You'll also find enemies that are going to poison you, set the ground ablaze. There's one that's called a Tox Flamer, and you hear a little tick, 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 tick before they actually enter. I thought that was a really cool bit of sound design, albeit a bit frustrating because it just sounds like me turning on the oven in my house. And so I keep thinking like, whoa, is something going on in my house? But it's actually the enemy in the game. But I like that I heard it and picked up immediately on what it was. It was like he was lighting a fuse or lighting a flame, getting ready to set the ground ablaze. And it captured that exactly. So there has always been a strong, visceral sound design behind at least any of the Warhammer games I've played, whether it be Vermintide or some of the others that have come out over the past couple of years. There was one I reviewed last year that was very Doom-like, but the name escapes me right now, and that doesn't surprise me because I wasn't crazy about the game. But otherwise, there is the focus on a progression loop here. You'll get money, you'll spend it at a armory, and like I said, you'll get new weapons and become more strong. But otherwise, it's a game that expects you to loop missions and gradually progress, and I think that slots in nice, well, fits like a glove into Game Pass. It reminds me a bit of how I felt with Aliens Fireteam Elite. It's this fun horde game, lots of different enemy types. It gets really crazy in certain missions, but I think for a lot of people it will be very pick up and play. But Game Pass sees something that we don't with these types of games, right? We've seen Back 4 Blood. I just talked about Aliens Fireteam Elite. Now we're seeing Warhammer 40K Darktide. So there's something here, this cooperative element, that really fits Game Pass, and I imagine it's what we all speculate, which is, well, do you want to pick up this game? Oh, I don't got the money. Oh, just sign up for Game Pass. All four of us can play. That's a really easy selling point for both the service and the game, and I think it benefits marketing-wise because it's going to get exposure that otherwise it wouldn't during this very crammed holiday window where so many awesome games are coming out, so many intriguing games are coming out. But otherwise, Warhammer 40K Darktide, really solid game, but the bugs and glitches really killed me, and I do hope they delay this one. I understand after one delay that was in September to now November, it's probably demoralizing for the team. Like, let's just get this out. Let's move on to the next thing. But I really would insist like a couple more months, unless this is a very old build, because they did do testing with the game during the Summer Games Fest. There were YouTubers who did previews then. If this is that same build, maybe they've had more time to iron out the kinks, but for me, as you see on all of the gameplay at the top left corner, it mentions that it's a closed beta from October 14th to the 16th, so I imagine it's not that old of a build if they're labeling it closed beta. And if it is a newer build, I would say really hold back, because the world is wholeheartedly interesting, as is any Warhammer game. I think the lore will grab people and pull them into other Warhammer games. I think that the actual framework here, the cooperative element, works well. The team dynamic works well. The music, by the way, kicks ass. When an actual enemy shows up and it's a boss fight, it rocks. It really gets you into it. And I don't want to spoil that for you, so we won't play it here, but there's a lot to love about this game, and I feel like you'd be sending it out to a too bad kind of review landscape if you push this out too soon. I get the holiday window, but I just think putting this out in January or February would likely be a wiser choice, even if it's really busy. I just feel this game deserves a true chance, and given its current technical state, it's not there yet. It's not ready. But those are my general thoughts on what's going on here with Warhammer 40K Darktide. A great game with a lot of potential, a lot to love. I enjoyed my time with it when it was working. Please patch this thing up and give it more time. Those are my overall thoughts. I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts in the comments down below. If you had a chance to test this at all, are there going to be any more betas, all that good stuff. Let me know what you're thinking of Warhammer 40K and your general hype level down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.